You do remember me saying that prosperity is your birthright?
Yes.
But there is work that you have to do before you can claim your inheritance.
Yes. Yes.
This is a universe of laws. Everything is run with laws. When you think of the planets going around and around and around, they're not bumping into each other, law keeps them going. Take a small flower, when it's just a bud, divine law controls when it opens. And the same law controls our law of supply. To get the law of supply to work for you and for me, so we can receive our spiritual birthright of prosperity, we must establish the most favorable conditions for it to work. I'll give you an example of how this law of prosperity or supply worked for one person and not the other. It's a story about two brothers who had two adjoining farms. The soil was just the same on both farms. The sun fell down equally, the rain fell down equally on both farms. But one brother studied the law of agriculture, and he nourished his field. He fertilized his field. He used something to remove insects that would be dangerous to his crop, and to keep them from harming a healthy growth. He also rotated his crops in the field so that the minerals would go back into the ground. That was what one brother did. The other brother couldn't be bothered. No, he just planted the seeds and he waited for the crops to come in. He said, I've done my part. Now it's God's job to take care of the rest. Well, you know what happened, don't you? I guess God didn't do his job. No, shouldn't say that. God always does his job. But one brother had a healthy, wealthy, wonderful crop, and the other one just had a weak, anemic crop. Each had the same soil. Each had the same rain. Each had the same sun. Each had the same God. But one learned how to provide the most favorable conditions for the abundant yield, while the other one could have done the same thing, chose not to. And so it is with the law of supply for us. We must learn to provide the most favorable conditions for the law to work. I was thinking about Arlene's birthday today, and gosh, the law of supply worked real well. Her friend Jerry brought a great big beautiful cake. It's back there on the table where we all get to enjoy. Thank you, Jerry, for that. Well, there is the very first thing that we have to learn if we want this law of supply to work for us is this. And we talked about it last week, but I can't talk about it enough, so we're getting a repeat today on some of the ideas. Look to God as the source of your supply. Look to God as the source of your supply. Not to things like the paycheck or your tax return or a rich uncle maybe going to pass away and leave you something. Look to God. Outer conditions are the channels through which you receive your good. But the truth is, the source of your good is God. The source of your supply is God. Now, looking to God as a source of supply is easier said than done, I have to admit that. First cause, creative principle, Father, Mother, God, Holy Spirit, whatever name you choose to call this wonderful power and this presence. It's so invisible. It's so intangible. It's so theoretical. It's so abstract. While these outer channels are very real, aren't they? Yes, very tangible. So it's easy, it's very tempting to mistake the channel for the source. I remember a time when I made a mistake of not looking to God as my source. And I paid dearly for it. But it was a great lesson for me to learn. I've shared it with some of you before, but it's worthy of repeating because I don't want this to happen to you. Okay? When my husband and I first moved to Florida, it was a sudden decision to move here because he had got cancer. And he said, I'm not working anymore. I'm not working anymore. Oh my God. We had a beautiful home, 5 bedrooms, lovely area, Mount Vernon. We had investment property. We had good income. But He says he's worked long enough. He wants to take care of this cancer. Well, the idea of giving all that up, moving to a tiny little retirement place here in Florida, living on very low income, actually scared me to death. I was not interested in that. But I told him, okay, I'll agree to do this on one condition, that I take my salary and start saving it. And when I get a goodly amount saved up, then we can move to Florida and I'd have that wonderful money to tide me over until we could get a retirement check. He agreed to that, and I started saving. I saved $10,000 for that rainy day that I just knew was ahead. During that time, my husband was getting our affairs in order. He sold our rental properties all at one time, which was not smart. He didn't make any money. And what happened? It threw us into another tax bracket, requiring us to pay additional money over and above what we had paid. And guess how much that bill was? $10,000. You got it to the penny. To the penny. We owed $10,000. I cannot, to this day, I can't believe that. Thanks a lot. Fred was so happy, he thought it was a miracle. And a miracle. He gave thanks for it. And we had that money just set aside, ready to give Uncle Sam. I didn't think it was a miracle. I thought it was like a bad joke played on me. But anyway, we did pay our taxes. Even though I fussed and fumed, we moved to Florida and everything worked out all right. But that's the greatest lesson that I have ever received, a spiritual lesson, that we don't. Who is the source of our supply? God, right. Now I suppose we could have been about like a man that I had read about who hadn't paid his taxes in a long, long time. He wasn't concerned about it at all until one day he went to church and he heard the preacher giving a sermon based on Psalm 52, which is all about lies and deceit. Try as he may, he couldn't get those preacher's words out of his mind. You love evil more than good, and lying more than speaking the truth. God will break you down forever. The more the man thought about it, the harder it was for him to go to sleep at night. Finally, he couldn't stand it any longer. He wrote the IRS a letter, and he says, I can't sleep knowing I haven't paid my income taxes. Enclosed is a check for $150. If I still can't sleep, I'll send you the rest. Well, what I learned from my experience was that the savings account is not the source of my supply. Saving account can disappear with one notice from the IRS, just like that, gone. But when we look to God as our source of supply, we're tapping an unlimited source, unlimited. A source that can and does use all manner of channels that we may not even imagine, that we cannot even think of in our wildest dreams. Establishing the mental condition of looking to God as a source of our supply isn't something we can do overnight. It really is not. It's more like a seed. I think the Daily Word talked about the seed. We plant the seed in our mind and it grows. It grows when we care for it. It grows when we cultivate it. And we do that by affirming it often, by meditating on it in our quiet times. Perhaps attending a church like Unity Community where you get to hear it over and over. God is the source of my supply. In fact, that's a great affirmation. God is a source of my supply. Great affirmation for enhancing prosperity. It's a great song, too. And how about we take a little break right in the middle of this service and sing those words together. It's on page 149, My Source. Stand up and let's affirm these words. God is the source of my supply, ready the good to multiply, bringing the substance I require, filling my very deep desire. This I know, blessed
to outpour, till every cup is running o'er. This I know, blessings flow, and my confidence in God will grow. Yes, I know, blessings flow, filling every deep desire. Prove me and see how if I will, windows of heaven open till so many wondrous blessings pour. There won't be room for enough for more. This I know, blessings flow, and my confidence in God will grow. Yes, I know, blessings flow, filling every deep desire.
Thank you. That would be a wonderful song for you to carry around with you. Sing it in your head, sing it out loud. Just say the words. Beautiful, beautiful affirmation. I think our church has done very, very well with affirming God as our source. All of our needs have been met over the years. Whenever we've needed money for something, it appears. Whenever we've needed people to serve in a certain way, they appear. And I'd stop and think about that, probably not as often as I should, but God is the source of our supply. And unity, along with developing the basic consciousness of the law of supply to work through, we also practice secondary prosperity laws. There are lots of them, actually. One we're going to talk about now is called the law of the vacuum. Law of the vacuum. Now, to explain it in its simplest terms, one would say you have to make room, or you have to clear out space to make room for your good, your new good, to come into you. We have to get rid of the old to make room for the new. And get rid of that which has already served its purpose, so new purpose can come to you. We call it the law of the vacuum because the very label gives a visual picture for the mind, and they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, huh? You find that what you give away, what you get rid of, what you discard, they're symbols of supply. Old clothes, knickknacks, possessions that are outworn, they're no longer useful to you, and get rid of them, and it creates a condition known as the vacuum. Magically, it seems, effortlessly, it seems, in a normal and natural way, new and greatly desired and needed good comes rushing into your life. It really does. We need to practice this law, the law of the vacuum, here at Unity Community. I mean, we are getting some things piled up that we need to get rid of. And today, I brought a little sign for our organ. Really needs a new home. We're working on that. But if all of us visualize that going someplace to bless someone else, who knows what will be coming in its place, but something wonderful that we do know. So if you want greater good, greater prosperity, start forming the vacuum by simply, it's very simple, just get rid of things that you no longer want or need, just taking up space in your life. And there are people who feel they have financial problems, and yes, they do. But a lot of the times, if you look in their house, you will find a garage packed full. You will find old, worn out, useless possessions that they have. And so if we have a closet like this, or we have a garage like this, it's probably indicating that we have a clogged consciousness that's out picturing in that house or that garage. So I know this is something that I personally need to work on as well. It just takes time. It doesn't seem like I have time to do it. But the universe stepped in a few months ago and helped me with that. The 6-foot rod in my closet fell down, and all my clothes fell on the floor. And I've been wanting to get to them, thank you. And so I took out half of my clothes and gave them to my stepdaughter. Very happy to have them. And you should see how quickly that space is filling up again. It's great fun. It's wonderful. It's a blessing. Yes, yes. I like to talk about this because it's easy to experiment with. There's not a person here who can't do this. It's kind of fun, actually. So how do you do it? You can start any place. You can start in your kitchen drawer, start in your closet, your garage, any place. and just start looking at the stuff you've accumulated in your life that's doing you no good. You're not going to use it. It's just taking up air. It's taking up your breathing air. Now, if we could look at it that way, I know we'd be getting rid of it, wouldn't we? Yeah. Think about it. Have you used this thing in the last 6 months or last year? Will you ever going to use it? If the answer is no, then let it go. Right?
We have a church garage sale.
There are.
Have a church garage sale.
We have talked about having a church garage sale. We've had them in the past. They're a lot of work, and we could do that. There are no rules about what to get rid of and what to keep. I mean, you make those rules for yourself. While I was working on this lesson, actually, I shouldn't tell this, but Marilyn and I were logged into a required seminar at Unity Village for 1 hour, and I decided to use the time double duty. I'll clean out my desk drawer. I was listening to Marilyn, I was. And so I started looking in the drawer thinking it had ever been cleaned out, ever. Had stuff in there, I had no idea what it was. In the trash, in the trash, in the trash, in the trash. And it was so wonderful. What a blessing I got from just doing that one little thing. At the very back of the drawer, the very bottom of the drawer, was a card. It was a Father's Day card I'd given my husband that he must have really, really appreciated. He's been gone since 2001, so I expect that card has been in the drawer for 20 years. He must have really liked it, and I really liked finding it as well. It was better than finding $50 in that drawer, I'll tell you that. So that was my blessing. Small drawer. Try it. This is easy for you to do. Just take some little small thing. Don't make it an overwhelming project right up front. Some people, like we talked about, have a garage sale. The only trouble with garage sale, we have to be very careful with that. Okay, now we got this big pile of stuff we don't want, and we can't use it. We're not using it. And yet we're out there on our garage, hot sun coming down, trying to get $2 for this and $3 for that. If we aren't careful, we look at our garage sale as a source of our supply. It's not. Who is the source of our supply? God, that's right. My very stepdaughter that I talked about, she recently got married and had 2 houses to combine. A whole bunch of stuff in the garage. So they decided to have one of these garage sales. They had a 3-day garage sale. All this stuff been stuffed in their garage for 2 years. This is sad to say. They made $50. Would you give up 3 days of your time?
Oh my goodness.
Of course, they expected to have a whole lot more than that. So I don't know. I didn't even ask her, what'd you do with the junk?
No.
Hopefully you gave it to Goodwill or Salvation Army or something like that. Always places that can use it. And if there's small things, you can always bring them here, and we'll put them on a sale table. But it's fun to give things away, share things, give them to somebody who can use them, or just throw them in the trash. Whew, that's the one that's the hardest to do. Just throw it in the trash. Now, let's see how this law of the vacuum fits into a spiritual picture. Doesn't seem like cleaning out closets would be in the province of spirituality, but indeed it is. It's a physical plane. It's extension on the physical plane of the spiritual faculty of elimination. We have the 12 powers, 12 spiritual powers. One of them is elimination. It's represented by the disciple Thaddeus. Now think about it. Without elimination of the no longer usable, stagnation would occur. Sickness would be a result, wouldn't it? Think about breathing. People have trouble breathing. We have to get rid of all that stale air out of our lungs so we can breathe in nice fresh air, nice healthy air. So if you want something better than you have now, you have to let go of the old. So you are free to accept the new when it comes. Sometimes we also hang on to old negative ideas and attitudes. Just the same way as we hang on to old material things. But we can do something about this as well. In our time of meditation, think of Thaddeus, the disciple of elimination. You can make an affirmation like this. The Christ in me is helping me and guiding me and letting go of old beliefs, of old, outworn, and limited beliefs of negative attitudes that are keeping my higher good from coming to me. I'd like for us to affirm that together. I will break it up for us and think of Thaddeus and elimination while we say these words together. The Christ in me is helping and guiding me and letting go of old beliefs, of outworn and limited beliefs, of negative attitudes that are keeping my higher good from me. Yeah. So 3 points to remember from today's prosperity lesson. 1, lay that foundation in your consciousness for prosperity with the idea, with the belief, with the spiritual principle that God is the source of my supply. Just carry that around in your head this week. No matter where you are right now, no matter how bleak your circumstances may appear, affirm that truth. In spite of the facts before you, God is the source of my supply. Number 2, get rid of the old, the outworn, no longer usable things in your life. Just get rid of them. And when you do this, the law of the vacuum will operate and bring greater good into your lap. It really will. Give it a try. Number 3, using the spiritual faculty, the power of elimination, let go of old limiting beliefs to make room for some new beliefs that will bring you fresh ideas, fresh ways to increase your prosperity. We have to remember that you have a very, very healthy, wealthy Father in heaven. And prosperity is your birthright. So get busy and claim it.